Hello and welcome to this product domain session as part of the buildingSMART International Standards Summit Valencia 2024. Thank you for joining. I hope our online participants can hear us well. Today's session is titled Regulations and Standards Forces Digitalization to Achieving Global Sustainability Goals. The speakers for this session are Espen Schulz, Group Vice President Research at Co-Builder, Aitor Aragón, responsible for BEAM and Sustainability in Construction, Spanish Association for Standardization, UNE, Kai Oberste-Ufer, Senior Manager of Digital Planning at Makaba, Petr Vokoun, CEO and founder at BEAM Project, Robert Heinze, CTO at Relax Informatic AG, joining us online. And last speaker is Radboud Baayen, Manager Standards and International Relations at Ketten Standard Construction and Engineering. This session is scheduled to last 90 minutes, including time for questions at the end. This session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible. Before I hand over to the speakers, I would like to remind you that this is a hybrid event. For online attendees, your microphones will remain muted for the duration. Excuse me. I would also like to bring to your attention that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted and the process for their adoption is transparent, and standards that are developed do not favor any particular provider and are open, non-binding, and accessible for all. Here's the code of conduct. And now I would like to hand over to Espen. Thank you.
This works? Yeah. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. This is the first session of the product domain sessions of this summit in Valencia. Good to see so many people here today. We will touch on, from our perspective, interesting topics. Which we think should be brought stronger as a topic into the buildingSMART community for further discussions. The introduction was already made here, so I will skip that due to timing issues. I think we can just start. The first presenter is from UNA. It's the Spanish standardization body. You can introduce yourself. It's Aitor.
Thanks a lot, Espen, and thanks to you all for being here. I think I have the slides. I will probably make it work. Well, I said I'm Aragón from the Spanish standardization body. We are the Spanish standardization body. You all have one in the country. It's UK or you we are going to talk a little bit probably more about Europe, not on international level. We'll talk about both, but mainly we will focus into regulations, European regulations that will improve, I think, a lot the digital information that we provided for buildings and other things. A brief presentation. We are the Spanish standardization body. We are an association. Our members are the cement industry, steel industry, car industry, any Spanish main industry, and we are the Spanish representative in all European and international standardization bodies. I am a civil engineer and I'm in charge of mainly two topics, sustainability assessment and BEAM and digital twins. I'm in charge of the national committees, but also in some cases I am the secretariat of the European or international working groups in things like digital twins, in the built environment or related things. What is a standard? I think you know what is a standard. buildingSMART develops standards, but what we understand as a standard is something that is published with a certain level of recognition. In our case, ISO and ISC. I the international level. Many of the standards made by you, made by industry, made by you here, are also European international standards and European standards because they are translated into the ISO world. We will be focusing today more in SEN. We have 3 standardization organizations in Europe, SEN, Senelec, and ETSI, electrotechnical, telecommunications, and the rest of things. We will focus on this one because the BIM standards are developed here. And there is something quite important about European standards. It doesn't happen worldwide. When you, for example, the ISO, the standard for management information in BIM, when we publish in ISO, any country can decide whether or not they want to adopt the standard. It's their decision, and they can make any change in the document at national level because it's international. But when we have a European standard, all members are obliged to adopt it without any modification. And if we have a competing standard, we have to cancel it. So it's the way we ensure we have a single market for products in the past, a single market for digitalization today. And we will talk about regulations because we are very related with regulations. The Commission usually use standards to define test methods, methodologies, and many things. And this is the case for construction. To ensure the single market, we use harmonized standards. It's what you use if you are an architect or an engineer, when you procure a product, how you use it. They have something for, you can call it digital, if you can call a PDF something digital, okay, this is in a computer, but it's not structured, you cannot properly use it. We have a delegated regulation that puts several requirements to deliver the information of products in a digital format, but it's, from my perspective, from a digital perspective, I think it's useless, because at the end you have a PDF, it's not a structure, you cannot use data, you need someone typing to transfer those data. But we have an opportunity, the new construction product regulation that will be published this year. It has been a long journey, it started before this first draft. 2 years of work from the development, mainly from the Commission, but also member states and a lot of things. And we have something that I think could be quite important, which is we will have a digital product passport system for construction products, and a parallel system for other products installed in buildings in the eco-design regulation. This will be very important, but it's not yet defined. What they have said is that we will define it in the future. Tomorrow we'll have a session about how this implementation will make. We have several regulations talking about the digital passport. We have the eco-design regulation, we have the battery regulation, the construction product. And they all try to refer to the eco-design regulation, the SPR. And what the Commission says here is we will copy what they do unless via delegated act we decide it is not useful for construction, which might happen. So it should be as aligned as possible. This is something interesting for the digital community. If you provide services in the digital world, there will be digital product passport service providers. We have some requirements in the regulation, just a few. The other requirements will be defined later in a delegated act, but this will be a very important group of organizations in the future, and there will be probably a certification scheme that will comply with the regulation. What does the eco-design, the SPR says? They will also have a registry, and in construction we usually have what we call prototype. We define things at model level. We do not usually define the reference performance at batch or item level. Here you can have the 3 levels. We might have it in construction, we're not sure, and it will be based on standards. And what are we doing in standardization? As said, the construction regulation today is based on standards. We have harmonized standards for the CE marking, we have test standards for resistance of fire, anything you use in your product, in a project. And if you comply with the standard, then you can use the CE marking. But today, they do not include anything on digitalization, and we think that has to change. This was published last year by the Commission, how to go for the green and digital transition in Europe, and they make explicit reference to BIM standards they make explicit reference to the committee, European Committee developing building standards, and well, this is transparent standards where we will not have time today to talk about it. You know this committee, or at least you know part of its work. Many of these standards are not really developed at European level. They are developed at international level. Some of them, you know it good, like IFC is developed by buildingSMART, and then it was brought to the ISO world. We also have the management of information in BIM. You know the work they are doing, and this is a map. You can download it from the same website. Here you have the main BIM standards, some of them related with other things like DIS or other things. And I would also like to highlight, before Espen completed the information, that 3 months ago we created a committee for digital product passport. We had our first meeting in December. Next week we will have the second meeting. Espen and I will be there. And during the work of this committee, the idea is that the Commission gives us a mandate. We don't have time to explain it, but they can tell us what to do. And we have a time frame to develop. And we will have to develop 8 families of standards. Unique identifier, data carriers, how we handle security, how we handle permissions, because, for example, the customer will have access to some information, but the regulator, if you are in charge of safety of citizens, you need more information. So you will have different levels of information. We will have a standard for all these things, and in principle, in theory, they should be developed before the end of next year, which is very, very ambitious, and I'm not sure if it's feasible. I would like to highlight that several standardization bodies, Norway, Spain, and others, explicitly asked for some BIM standards to be included, at least something they should study. You probably recognize some of them, the dictionaries, and the coordinator of this group. Also, I think you probably know them all. And as a summary, in Europe we will have soon this year, both regulations will be published this year. We will have this regulation asking for a digital product passport. The products covered will be installed in buildings, will be used by construction companies. This system will be based on European standards, and more or less the third idea is that this digital product passport shall be used in building. The Commission in the final text published last month, they explicitly state that this digital product passport has to be compatible with BIM systems, because if not, why do it? And this is my presentation, I think, for today. Yes, thanks for attention. Yours.
Thank you, Aitor, for giving some insights on from a standardization point of view and a legislation point of view, what is happening in Europe. I will go down the same path, the same route, and I will try to connect what Aitor talked about to what we are here to discuss this week, BIM, with the particular focus on how data dictionaries can and will play a role in this connection. So this is also the topic of this session. Try to understand that in the product room we see it is important for buildingSMART to understand this. And we will later hear about topics like governance of data. How can we trust the data, properties, etc., that exist, for instance, within the buildingSMART data dictionary? Should we continue to extend IFC with properties, or do we need something more? I think we agree that we need something more. How can we trust this data? How is that linked to what Aitor now talked about and the requirements that comes from, this is from a European perspective, the regulations in Europe? I will try to make a connection there and get you to hopefully understand it. This is me 10 years ago. I'm working over there. We're a software company working with data for objects in general. I spend most of my time I spend in standardization work. I love it. I see the huge benefit from it. I'm leading 2 projects now in SEN. It's really SEN and ISO projects on data templates. We'll come back to what that is. Yeah, and I'm part of the product domain steering committee. I will start, I will not go into the depth, but in Europe we have something called the European Green Deal. I found a sentence on the European Commission's pages that I think fits quite well with how we should understand this. And this is how this will affect everyone. So the changes that comes now, the needed changes due to the climate changes is forcing us as an industry also to change. This will provide opportunities to do something new. This is in general for all industries. I will focus on the construction industry. Aitor touched this document. This is a strategy document produced by the European Commission. This is to explain that from their position to make a green shift as fast as possible, you need digitalization. You have to do that. And they are also, again, I could touch this, I think it's good with repetition. They are specifically mentioning some BIM standards. They are also mentioning BIM a lot as part of their digital strategy. So they are referring to BIM systems. The construction product regulation provides the necessary instruments and will ensure the exchange of compatible data in BIM systems. So they are already looking at their requirements as something that BIM systems has to handle. They are referencing CEN TC 442, that is the European BIM standardization group, closely aligned with the ISO equivalent group on BIM standardization. But for Europe, that is where the BIM standardization is taking place. And they are referring to, we need to standardize language, different construction traditions and terminology, process and regulatory approaches. We need to put this in digital language and make it available for the user. They are specifically mentioning 3 standards. We'll go more in depth into them. I want to explain what they are. So this is touching the digital aspect. They are also referring to the environmental side of this, because we need to not only talk about technical requirements for assets, buildings, but also how we can connect the environmental part. Now, jumping into the construction product regulation. We are in Europe, but I think the approach will apply in outside Europe as well. It's a good input for other regions, but also for everyone that wants to provide products to the European market. This applies. So in the new construction product regulation, I will see CBR for now, they are specifically introducing the term data dictionary. So they want a machine readable format. To improve machine readability, it is necessary to establish a common data dictionary based on European standards. The dictionary should include all essential characteristics for products and buildings and other properties, we know that term, properties, as set out in the harmonized technical specification. So these are properties that you have to provide as manufacturers, and that is important data for you as someone who needs information. If you're a designer, contractor, and Aitor mentioned digital product passports. That is coming now as an instrument, a requirement for all products in Europe, not only construction products. All products needs to have a digital product passport. This is linked to the green shift, the Green Deal. We need a more sustainable approach. For construction products, the same applies. For construction product, there will be specific requirements for declaring data. More than today, we need to declare the environmental data as part of environmental product declarations, environmental indicators. That will be mandatory. So that was the regulatory part. What about how does that connect with BIM? BIM standardization, as I mentioned, takes place on ISO level in TC 59, TC 13, in Europe, TC 442. The handshake means that we have an agreement called the Vienna Agreement that we need to align so we don't overlap on European level and international level. We have developed lots of standards for areas that are familiar to you. Asset information management, level of information need, digital twins, IFC, etc., etc. What is most relevant for the topic of today are data dictionaries and data templates. 3 standards are providing the technical framework for data dictionaries. European and international standards, EN ISO standards. I will go a bit more into that to each and every one of them, so you can get a view on how this connects with the regulation that is coming. 2326 is about how to create, author, and maintain properties in data dictionaries. We need experts, industry experts, domain experts to do this for us. So we don't create our own language internally. I think that's the main message in all the rooms. I've been to one session today. We need to be open. And we need the industry experts to do this work. This standard provides the framework on how to do this. This is a list of what we call attributes. For each property, there's a lot of additional information that is needed, either mandatory or optional. Put it a little bit more friendly, readable way. For a property, you need to know the data type, you need to know physical quantity, method of measurement, units, data creation, data validation, and there are also attributes that are linked to how the content in dictionary are maintained. We need new versions, etc. Of this content. Everything is described in this standard. This is a general standard, not about implementation. If you want to implement this, you should use EN ISO 1266 Part 3, also called IFD. This is closely related to buildingSMART Data Dictionary. She was the co-leader of this work. This takes in all the attributes that we looked at into a data model. So this is for developers. To exchange data dictionaries, this is the one. Data templates is implementing this approach, assembling properties to groups of properties, to objects, etc. Using the same information from 2326. So, how does that link to the regulation again? I'm back to the strategy document. Going back. The strategy document is referring to these standards. This is the digitalization path according to the European Commission. They are also specifically mentioned one other standard. That is for digital EPDs. How can we use and run environmental data in BIM in a consistent manner? That group, ISO group, chose to use the digital framework that we have produced in TC442. Data dictionaries and data tables. This standard is providing a list of environmental indicators that is made by environmental experts on ISO level and SEN level. So they are working together according to the process in 2326 to create properties for environmental data. This is what we should use. And this is what we have to use, because this is going to be required by the Commission. This is the list. Small part of it. This is referred to from the standard, and this is published on ISO pages. I think you have to buy the standard to get access to them, but they are open, or they are available if you have access to this standard. These properties has been established in the buildingSMART data dictionary. Ansueli was the project lead for that. Where are you? There, yes. So these properties are now available in BSDD. How can we see in BSDD that these properties come from everything I talk about? That is a discussion we will touch with. Governance of data. And I want to introduce a new project in SEN. Sorry for you not connected with Europe. Still, the approach I think applies. In SEN TC442, we have started a new project. We want the people that are creating the standards that Aitor was talking about, we want them to use the SEN TC442 standards. The data dictionary standards, 2326, we want them, as part of their process on creating standards, to start to digitize, create digital content. So we are just started a project where the end result will be a technical specification explaining them how they can do this. The outcome will be properties for product types, objects, that will be made available on European level. And that is what we should use. Specifying windows, this is what we should use. So for now, any implementation of a dictionary is out of the scope. We will just provide some tables where these are attributes from 2326. So everything is reused. It's based on the framework. So now I will try to connect the regulation to what I just talked about. This is this is a table from the European specification for windows and doors. This table provides properties, ability to release, impact resistance, resistance to wind load, repair distribution. These are called essential characteristics, and they are requirements that comes from the regulation side. These requirements comes from the European Commission. They are based on building requirements on European level, basic requirements. So for each product domain, they have expert groups that are specifying requirements for windows. On the standardization level, there are other experts working on developing standards. They are working on this level. These are the clauses, the sections in the standards that are providing the technical specification for how manufacturers need to test their products. So there's a mapping here. The left side is setting requirements that the right side has to answer up to. This knowledge needs to be digitized. We need this knowledge in data dictionaries. We need the tools, the software, to be able to connect this. This is legislation. So, what the Commission is, the direction they are going, is this. On the left side, the Commission themselves, they will come with requirements in the form of digital, and they are talking about they need a European data dictionary to hold this. The standards, the standardization parts, properties, EPDs, is all connected. Is it possible to have one dictionary? If not, we can have interconnected dictionaries, because the standards supports that. There will be more dictionaries. So, I will end my presentation with trying to connect this with buildingSMART. How does this apply to buildingSMART? Maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. I think it does. So how can we connect it? The buildingSMART standards can use this directly. IFC can use dictionaries directly. IDS can use dictionary directly. Today. What about BSDD? We all talk about BSDD. It can be there as well. It's up to the users, the use cases. Some wants to use BSDD as a repository for properties. You can do that. Some others will just connect directly to the other dictionaries. But this picture, I think, is important for buildingSMART to understand. How can we connect to this, what is coming? So that was my presentation. We will touch this again. We will talk about governance of data. Radboud, you have a session tomorrow on that. Yeah. And we are open for questions. questions, comments, discussions on this? Aitor, you have
tomorrow that we will discuss.
Yes. And also tomorrow at 9 o'clock, there will be a session on digital product passports for construction products. And maybe you can do the presentation of the event and where it is.
I don't know where it is, but it's it's our data product passport of construction products. We will have a representative from the Commission explaining the new CPR and how it applies. And we will also explain our project we are developing now. As said in the regulation, is not yet established how it will be built, because they need to analyze it a bit more. They launched a tender, open tender. Co-builder Tecnalia Nune will won that tender, and we are now developing a feasibility study to provide insights about which option is preferable: centralized secure database, decentralized, completely decentralized system, or several options. We will also explain that study.
Just a short question. It's very interesting to see. Thank you for the presentation. I think it's very interesting to see all these relationships and so on. Do you have any example with values for this? We could see for a simple product, all these different locations of data where it's moving into the dictionary. How simple files or tables showing for the window, for example, all these metadata, for example. How is the file looking as a sketch of it, so you can really follow? I think that would be very valuable, at least for me.
Thank you. Good input. I think we should take that as a challenge for the public domain to develop such picture.
The whole way, different actors also, when it comes in to the process. Is it the designer, the architect, and how is it moving then to the construction company, to the end operation?
And we might touch
Or is
some
it just a link somewhere?
we might touch this in other presentation, I don't know, but we will definitely take it as a challenge, yes.
It goes in the direction of information lifecycle management.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
It's a short part tomorrow morning. We have an activity proposed there. It's close to be released as a project. And that's exactly talking about processes, users, business requirements, and then really also detect where is the potential for more efficiency, productivity in this overall process. It's all about procurement, logistics, and so on. It's not only design build. Yes.
What about copyright of the properties that there are in ISO? I was discussing yesterday with Heinze, so apparently he uploaded the ones that the sustainability group did on the BZD. That is not a problem, I heard from him, because he asked his national standardization body. But I've seen a LinkedIn discussion with Robert Heinze, I don't know if he's here, where he says the opposite. So my question is, which one is it?
The answer is that it is definitely a topic. So what's inside a SEN or ISO standard is standardized, so that is the owners of that. And in Europe, particularly, is the member states that also contribute for that particular area. And many of these standardization bodies has been part of the discussions. How can this digital content be made available in dictionary without disturbing their business model? So that is, I think, it's a maturing process you need to understand, and maybe turn it around. How can this improve their business model, and how can we gain value of the digital content? So, but it is definitely a topic, And this will be preserved by the dictionaries. So accessing this content can, if they want, be restricted.
I have a question on your last picture, this one, which was very interesting with the different dictionaries. In this picture, you have the properties defined, but the values for the properties again, they will probably then be in some product catalog or passport or whatever. How do you see that they will come into the IFC? Will we then need to have the properties in IFC, or will we link directly to the properties defined in the digital passports?
Luckily, there is standardization work trying to solve that issue as well. Robert Heinze will touch a little bit on one of those standards, where in buildingSMART we call it IFC for products. It's using where IFC is connecting to data dictionaries, but also to product catalogs using data dictionaries. So there is attempts already trying to solve. That's my best answer.
Would be good to have them in this picture as well.
Good ideas. Any more questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Aitor, and thank you, Espen, by your presentation. One question. We are talking a lot about products, construction products, but in this room, for example, we have a lot of products that are covered by construction regulation. For example, lights, switchboards, outlets. What happened with these products regarding the DPP?
Do you want to answer that, Petr?
Those products are covered by the ESPR in principle, because they have eco-design requirements, so they should be covered with the regulation. So they will be obliged to have a DPP. And this morning I was with Espen. It was already rated for health products, which are not covered by the ESPR. They will also be a digital product passport. I think the trend is that any product will have a digital product passport. That's the good and the bad thing. That's the good thing. The bad thing is that if it is not implemented properly, a company selling products to the construction field, but for example, a metal sheet, you can use it for a car or for a building, and you should have only one digital product passport. You should not be developing cell formats. So that is also a challenge for the next years. But the quick answer is yes, it will be covered with the SPR.
Okay, thank you.
But I just want to comment quickly on that. We are working in the construction industry and the BIM standardization. We are working to cover not only construction products under the CPR. So everything we do is applicable, should be used for all the horizontal level.
Yes, I agree on that. Right now, yeah, the construction products covered by CPR regulation, and all the electrical products, except the electrical cables that are included in CPR, are covered by low voltage regulation. So my notice about that, how we cover these products from low voltage.
There is standardization work established now, still in Europe, on digital product passports, and the topic on how each industry or domain should solve the digital product passport is part of that work. So yes, ideally we should do it the same way for all industries, but don't think that's feasible.
I have an additional question. Perhaps it's not relevant at the moment, but for me, this is just part of the information about the product. The operation, maintenance, etc., that information coming from the manufacturer, is that going to be a parallel process in the future? different state definitions for product and what spare parts, etc., should be used and so on. Like we have in other standards like PLCS for the Norwegian Navy, for example, and they want to know the condition, observations on the pump, and what could it be, what services should be, and so on, intervals, etc. But that is not something for now.
From a properties and object point of view, data dictionary point of view, that is part of the scope. It's just to define from a technical point of view. We encourage any type of information to be applicable in data dictionaries. So that is the short answer.
It's a very good question. And finding the data about passport committee, it will be that in Europe you have a huge responsibility when you use this product passport, you visit the CE marking, to develop the CE marking, you have full responsibility of all data. Even if you just type it incorrectly, it's your fault and you can be prosecuted, but you know what, it's very serious. So the point is that each economic operator will be able to store data in a chain. That is not only the idea. So the manufacturer is only responsible for the information he provides. And then comes the supplier, someone in the maintenance or the installer or whatever. They can add information, but with their code identification, because they are responsible for their part of the information. So that is all the responsibility, the legal responsibility is one of the things that we have to resolve. Not just store data, but who is responsible if something falls.
Final question.
Yeah. Timeline for this, is there anything more precise when this European data dictionary will be in place? I mean, it's a lot of work going on national levels in different countries. I mean, how should you go forward with this? Should you wait, or how do you will it take different domains one after the other, or how will it work?
In theory, I find it quite challenging. We are being recorded, so we have to be careful. In theory, the DTP for batteries has to be implemented for 2026. Standard has to be ready for December 2025. I think that is very, 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 very complicated. I don't say feasible, but they will try. The ESPR comes just next, and the CPR system should be in place the year after, 2026, 2027, but we will have more time, because the idea there is that there's no idea yet, but probably there will be a format or a structure will be defined product by product. Now there is an ongoing process not related to digitalization, and several products will go before others. For example, probably Windows, insulation, this type of product will go before. So we will, each manufacturer should know if his product is going well. This process will take for construction products a lot of years. So, but I cannot give you a date, a lot of years.
Thank you.
Sorry, I don't have a question, just a suggestion. In short, I saw there are some ISO standards relating to this topic. I would like to suggest that another series of ISO standards, which are the ISO 16757. It's about building service products and categories. And actually we are trying to use the data dictionary and the FC standard to describe the building service products.
Correct. Thank you. We have to move on with the program.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Espen and Aitor. Perhaps if there are any more questions, you can find them later during the summit. I would like to welcome to the stage Kai Oberste-Ufer from German chapter. Here's the clicker.
Thanks a lot. So now I'm the lucky guy who's struggling with this slide thing here.
Just one moment.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe I use the time before you have prepared the presentation, just to give a quick introduction. Yeah, my name is Kai Oberste-Ufer, coming from the German chapter. We have just prepared a few slides, 1 or 2 slides, and what I want to do is I want to connect to what has been said before and what also some of the questions you raised are showing up, namely the request for what's happening next. So what could be the next step? You talked about legislation perspective, but then it all needs to be applied to the market, to the usage, to a real process. Not talking about the specification, but about the defined properties, but about the values and the products. I picked one of your pictures. You haven't shown it in this presentation, but this is normally a picture we see when it comes to the overall to the overall picture of how technical systems work together or are intended to be used when it comes to standards and regulations from the European level. What we will see here is, okay, on the one hand side, we have the ESPR and the CPR requirements, so we have a kind of requirement level here that all goes into a digital product passport, which was already mentioned before, that goes into a probably EU database for construction products. And on the other hand side, we have also here the part in yellow, which is the standardization part, which defines properties, to break it down on that level, which defines properties, and they are stored in many data dictionaries. We heard already there will not be one leading system, there will be many systems that are interconnected based on certain standards. Okay, but then the question is, there is a world after. There is a world after of people, namely working in the construction industry, in the planning, in the planning and operational phases, who need to make something out of this data, who needs to work on that. And these stakeholders have different views, and also more important, they have different formats, they use different softwares. And the question is, I think now to all of us, how can we get more clarity here? What can we, also as buildingSMART, offer to the market in answering the questions? What can I do out of these standards? How can I bring this onto my table to make real practical usage out of it? And this brings me to a proposal we are working on. So it's not my part, so it's not just my work, it's developed in Germany. And it's just a proposal to start the discussion around how can we now talk about the process of using data in the process of exchanging information. We have information requests coming from a planner. We have the industry on the other hand side. And what I will now present is just one slide with an intention, to start the discussion, to start talking about it. We know there are probably more, there are probably some question marks behind it, but I think it's a good start here. So as I said, on the one hand side, we will have some kind of information order, someone who has a demand for information. That could be a planner being in some stage of the planning process, and he needs information. He needs information from a manufacturer, he needs information from other party. So he has a demand, he has an information need. And this can of course become from different use cases. So it could be planning, design, but also later tendering, procurement, construction, maintenance, and also planning and design. I work for a manufacturer, product manufacturer, and here we also have different levels. We have a broad level, just talking roughly about the specification, but later on we are going deep down into all the nitty-gritty details. So also in this phase, we have already different levels of demand in terms of data quality and data completeness. So, and this use cases are driven and are also influenced by the legislation. You talked about that, and ideal, this should be specified as IDS, and they should not just release a PDF saying, hey, these properties needs to go on let's say a door, for example, for certain use cases. They should also offer this in a machine readable format that can be used directly in the software of the planner. So this is probably more wishful thinking than currently the actual situation. But I think this is something the legislation bodies should do. And this information order, coming back to him, he has a demand. So he sends a request, of course, using IDS. And IDS, for those of you who are familiar with this format, consists of different aspects. So there is a applicability aspect saying, okay, on which object does this IDS applies to? And we have requirements defining what values are needed, what is required. And here we also talked about this, the BSDD, or some of the data dictionaries can be the data source for the harmonization of the standard of the properties we are using in the IDS. But at the end, we have some information supplier. We have a receiver of this request, and this could be, of course, a manufacturer, this could be an engineer, this could be anyone who is able to answer the questions raised by the information order. And this information supplier normally has a kind of planning software. Many manufacturers or engineers have detailed planning software for their specific purpose. So it's not necessarily the same what the information orderer uses. For example, on our side, we have dedicated special software for door planning, specification writing, and stuff like that. And these planning software must be connected either to the own database, but also, and that was already mentioned before, to a public construction product database, or one of these. Because this is the basis for their work with products. And also here we have a kind of step 0 above, where these digital product passports come into play. So these are prepared before work is already done, or before work is carried out here in a phase 0, before we are actually touching any specific project. Okay, then at the end we have this guy needs to provide information, and here comes into play what also was mentioned before. We will have an IFC for products. This is a specification, or this is a proposal or developed in the product domain, and we'll later hear from Robert about this. This is already discussed for many years, and now we have some additional, I wouldn't say proposal, but it's an idea. What we can use immediately, for example, is we can also use IDS here. We know, of course, it's not meant to be used for that, but we can use, as long as we don't have IFC for products here. As I said, this is an activity proposal, but in the meantime, we could also use the same IDS or something similar to hand over data back to the information order. And this flow of information going back can also be realized now while using the BCF as a kind of container. BCF has the ability to have a kind of BIM snippet in it to transform data, and that's what we can use to hand over data back in a formalized and very well known and implemented process back to the one who orders the information. And what I want to say here is, this is our proposal for discussion. We know that IFC for products is yet not available. We know that IDS is probably a bit misused in this context, but I think it's a valuable question to ask. Okay, what is our answer for this process? What technology, what formats, what standards can we use? And also here, coming back to the DPP, can or must buildingSMART provide a format? Can we provide a format that your direction can be discussed to use one of the standards here coming from buildingSMART, whatever that means. But coming back to this point again, this is a proposal, this is an idea. We could use IDS for that, although knowing that it's probably a bit of a misuse. But the provided information is then taken back into the domain of the information orderer. And this is a process, and the good thing is that works already. So this is nothing we need to wait for or there needs something to be invented. This is something that can already be applied based on existing standards, based on existing norms, and also based on aligned on the big picture what you presented coming from the legislation and standardization body perspective. But I think at the end that's what I wanted to show. I have created more slides, but we have tomorrow another, just to keep the tension high. So tomorrow we will have a 30-minute session and you will see the rest of my presentation. But I think now it's open for questions. Again, don't nail me here, don't kill me, don't kill us. It's just the idea of, hey, let's talk about that. What can buildingSMART offer to bring this to life? Because industry is not waiting for us. And if someone else develops a process like this or develops solutions, they are probably more faster and will kick us out. So this is our idea to start the discussion. Questions, remarks, death notes.
Thank you, Kai. I guess, yeah, if questions pop up, people will approach you later.
I think there's one.
Just a comment. I think it would be really nice to use this opportunity to do what we can develop in terms of the use cases. We really link, the data, from manufacturers to the use cases developed by buildingSMART. For me, this is something which is allows to combine both of the processes, because process of the design, construction, delivery, and maintenance, and process of the production. We as a manufacturer delivering the different properties of our product for the different stages, for the different use cases.
Exactly.
And this is what I'm really missing, and I think this is the huge impact that buildingSMART can do in this discussion.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. I think what is missing here, we have on top coming the legislation perspective, but we could add the use case management on the bottom, saying, okay, this is the arrow pointing upwards, defining the use cases in a more structured and formal way. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And I think this is really business critical, because you cannot explain this in the manufacturing.
Right.
Why you need to
Yeah.
do this.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kai. I would like to welcome to the stage Petr Vokoun.
Hello, everyone.
1 minute.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can start without, it's okay. So I'm here to just recap our development on guidelines for manufacturers. I'll just shortly introduce. It's a document, we call it white paper, now we call it industry input because it's a little bit longer than we expected. Why we created it? The reason is that if we want information in BIM models, manufacturers are eventually those who need to provide the data because they are actually selling the product and somebody will use it. And the thing is that I've been working with manufacturers for a couple of years, and most of them don't know how to share data. They don't realize the importance of it. Even if they do, they usually don't have it, and they don't see the challenges that it brings. So it's just a recap of our experience throughout the years, where we are explaining the possible difficulties and what they should take care of and so on. So just take your time, I will continue. We are almost ready with the document. I would like to thank Matthew Rebetella from Canada for his comments, and also Kai here, who actually added one more chapter to it. It's called the maturity. Yeah, basically we improved a couple of chapters where we focus on what is actually a product property, what is property's attribute. It's just a simple explanation that is described actually in the standards, but on some example. Yeah, basically what we focused on these revisions was, as I said, no.
I think our online participants can see that, but unfortunately can't display it here.
Yeah, it's not possible to show. Okay, no worries. It's very hard to do it like this, but we'll be sharing the document in a few days after the last revision, and that the point is that it will be the first public version meant for the comments from the industry. We expect that it will be evolving through the time, but it's really aimed directly to the manufacturers, so they should read it and get back to us with possible comments or questions if they need. So that's why we are here as a steering committee to help also the manufacturers to get into the process. I don't know, can you just raise hands if anybody read it already from the last conference? No? Okay, that's good. Okay, so I suppose that the secretary will be sending it over. I don't know if it did happen last time or not. So thanks for the cooperation.
I'm really sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah.
Perhaps you can share it with the attendees.
Yeah, of course. As I said, it's now.
And we can post the link on the.
Yeah, I hope that everybody will receive it, and we are happy to receive the comments, because maybe you will have, or manufacturers will have more experience regarding the product data. The point is that the sharing of the data, like in a technical way, is usually the easy part, like connecting to API or exporting it to Excel file or JSON or XML file. But really, most of the manufacturers on the market don't have anything. They don't have usually even the product information or the database. They have most of the data in PDFs. And they are waiting for something to happen, maybe the European Commission to tell them that there will be some database mandatory to provide the data. But from our experience, it takes sometimes like months, even years to get the data together to be able to use it. So some of the manufacturers create their own IT departments for this. Some of them hire external IT experts and so on. So it's really not an easy part. So I think I will be the one who will be receiving the comments and getting back to you. So I hope that it will work better than the technology today. So that's it. If you have any comments, I'll be happy to receive now or after the session. And more time for upload. I think he's coming next. Right.
Thank you, Peter. Now I would like to hand over to our online presenter, Robert Heinze.
Oh, Robert, okay.
Hi. Okay, 10 minutes of a pitch for an interesting project, which I guess it's really needed for the whole world, for the industry. It's called IFC Pro Products, and you can guess everything in the naming itself, but I'm going through all the slides to provide this idea more in detail. So we can do it roughly. My name is Robert Heinze. I'm CTO of Relux. We're doing lighting design software, and I'm a lobbyist in the lighting industry, in the lighting world. So I'm deep down in lighting with all kinds of stations, and I'm also a member of the product domain steering committee, and the steering committee together agreed on this project. So the issue, what is the issue why we should do something like IFC for products? Because IFC is really great. IFC is a connector of all kinds of worlds. It's the only open and standardized exchange format we have for building objects. So this is great to have. And it's a lot of effort going into IFC. And it's getting better and better from step to step. We have different civilizations, as you potentially know. But there is a big problem in my eye in terms of IFC. This is just defined for entire buildings in the current way we have it. And I represent more the let's say, the manufacturing industry in the lighting world, of course, also designers and users. But I was long years in a manufacturing environment, and I want to provide my products. I want to provide my in this case, luminaires to the world in an open format. I want not to create all kinds of different formats for different applications. And this is also the reason why we have a gain of something like this product catalog or providers that some companies provide the service which is needed, that I can provide my products in all kinds of applications. I need to have a partner which provides my products in up to 120 different formats in I don't know how many BIM ordering systems. And this is not really nice and not really open and complicated and also expensive for manufacturers to provide it. And also for me as a user of product data, I need to connect to one application, to one system which provides the right data to me. And this is not easy and far from open. And this is something which I guess we needed, everybody. It's an open and digital exchange format for just product data without an envelope of a building. So if you got today an IFC with a product, then you get an entire building project with everything, and the product is in it. So mostly it's an empty room in Boston, and this is not the way to operate with products in larger scales. And it's not far away, because something like IFC have a lot of options to provide product information, but just in a, let's say, wrong envelope. And this is something where is the idea, the basic of the idea is, let's just define an IFC for products, not for the entire buildings buildings, just down to a single product. And of course, standardized, open, with any benefit we have for all disciplines, all objects, all construction phases, like IFC, the same philosophy, just down to a product. And this will reduce a lot of creation and interpretation efforts, which we have today with products, and also down to geometry. It's also everything is mostly in an IFC, and this we can use, and manufacturers can create easily and provide their data in just one open format, which is great. The technical solution, it's based, I said, again, on IFC. In IFC, we have natively a lot of products and properties which fits not to everything, I have to say. So, for example, luminaires, which I know quite well, also in IFC, is reflected quite good. So I have to say luminaires are covered with 48 properties and a rich object structure, including photometrics. It's really rich. But even for the good represented luminaires in IFC, it's not enough. We have something like 500 properties in a standard, in the ISO standard, which we created. It's far away from the 48 we have in IFC natively. And also the photometrics and so on is a bit of stacked and a bit not really dynamic in IFC. So it's more out there as we have in IFC. And this is known, and we need to do more on IFC to allow in real world coverage of products. This means we need something like an external structure like BSTD in order to allow more objects, more properties. Of course, also based on something like product data templates, real property descriptions. So the standards which we have heard today from Espen, and also something like IFD. So we need standard and structures to describe it and to enhance the range of IFC to everything else which is out there to cover the reality. Otherwise, it's not possible just to provide a product with which is natively in IFC, not fully. So maybe just to have an exchange of the fundamental idea of a product, but not the complete product, in order to allow the steps like planning with the products, designing, tendering, usage of the products. Then you need more, as you have currently in IFC. Fact. In CEN standardization, there were two projects, one project starting, two projects in the end, which tries to cover. Oh, here's an typo. It's not -1, it's -1 and -2. Sorry for this. There were two projects dealing with this issue, which was the first attempt or the first realization of an IFC for products by simply to try to make it short, to change the header of IFC and to allow a rich base of external property and object sources in the IFC property library in it, and sent to play with this library. And this is done for part 2. Part 1 is sadly not really getting finished by this, but the concept is there. And there is an older project from Klaus Angford, which has created this standard, the first standard, with examples and the definition. And you can find it behind this link we found here on the screen. It calls COD, construct object data, construction object data. And this is, let's say, in first attempt, which is not really thought to the last corner, but it's in first attempt to realize something like this. So it's something is there to build on it and to validate and test and create use case of it. And this can be happen with this standard. It can also be possible that it's not usable for all the use cases and for each situation, but at least we have something to build on. Yeah, we have created in our product domain steering committee an activity proposal called IFC for products, and this is approved now. So we have an approved activity proposal, so we can start the activity. It's not a proposal anymore; it's an activity in a way, and the project is waiting for a kickoff. So it's not kicked off in project terms; it's waiting on it. We have started with a detailed project plan. So the half of the project plan is finished. We have some good ideas and also first discussions with potential stakeholders and guys who are interested in. And yeah, we in the project, we want to start with collecting and checking use cases. There is a lot of use case material out there, especially from the German-speaking chapters, which I know quite well. There are couple of use cases which we can cross with this IFC for product approach and also with this COD starts. And then we should start with a technical and application solution comparison course from the legacy parts of buildingSMART and also from the old steps or from the first steps of IFC. There are some solutions which should also cover the issue, which we should compare to the COD approach. Then we should do something like prototyping and also provide some kind of documentation as the project scope ends on this. Of course, this should be continue with some more stuff in order to communicate what we have. So to bring this in reality to fly, we need also a lot of communication and marketing. But first, we should check the use cases and compare solutions and going more technically down to it. And then potentially we change the COD approach or we create something completely new technically, but this is not known today, and that's why we have this project. Last slide, and call to action. What are the next steps which we needed to do? We need for this project sponsors. So we need funding, we need money for it to execute it, to have a proper project set up, to have people who working on, to have a project leader to it. We also need a project leader. We have not a project leader for this project. And this is also something where people can sponsor directly personnel. So if a company has interest in it, potentially a manufacturer who has the same pain points which I illustrated on the beginning, then this is a chance to provide a proper project leader to this project and to found this guy and also to join this group, to join this project, to work with the project lead and to go to the steps and to find out if this is the right way or if we do to change something. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Other questions from the audience?
Thank you very much, Robert, for your talk. One thing that comes to mind for me when products and manufacturer data is mentioned is the initiatives also by GS1, for instance, with the fancier version of the barcode for products, GTIN and others, where they have made some progress with mentioning product data or product information based on linked data, making that available on the web. That's of course another open standard compared to IFC, for instance, and potential IFC products. Do you see a good match being possible between the two forums? Let's say one IFC for products and the other being the linked database, GS1 based product information.
Yeah. I have to say that GS1 and the whole system from GS1 is really helpful to identify products and to properly work with the products. But it's more an identification of products and not in which product description. Also, as far I'm not so deep in GS1, but as far I have contact with GS1 in the past and discussions, they are more the identification group of products. They are not have the agenda to really describe fully geometrically, in my case, photometrically, products down to the last bit. They are just labeling it, put an ID to it, down to the serial parts of it, not just to the product group, even down to the single products, which is great to have these approaches. If they have some interesting structures to provide and complete digital twin in a way of a product with geometry and all the properties, then it is also welcome. This is maybe some other approach beside IFC, besides COD, besides some other proprietary description formats for products, then it's welcome. But I did not see anything like this at GS1.
I think it would be worth to reach out again. So they are using maybe or recommending organizations to use schema.org basically also for mentioning the properties for specific products. So they are mainly focused on identification, but also recommending the identification to be used as, let's say, the product URL, so the website for the product, including all the information, especially also for, and this is of course not for product, but for, let's say, dietary reasons, that people could use a scanner and say, what are the ingredients in this product that just scan, to just get a green or a red check, depending on your dietary restrictions.
Yeah, they have the link to the product and they have some kind of, let's say, metadata of the product with 10, 20 properties of each product they scan. But they told me technically they want to keep it flat. They want not to have the complete product data, which can be a lot on a specific product. They want just to cover the identification layer with name, article number, and some basic properties, and then the rest should come from the manufacturer with the link. So this is also a couple of years ago, this information. But thanks for the point. I will check with GS1.
Just would like to add perhaps or remind the presentation from Espen. So different interconnected data dictionaries, probably several product databases that connect them to interconnected data dictionaries. So I think there will be space enough for GS1 and we need to bring and interconnect these different data diction standards, whatever. And I think that has to really go at the end of the day. By the way, tomorrow we have a short introduction to the approach of the information lifecycle management, and there GS1 is also part of it, and then their ideas and concepts are part of it.
Thank you, Robert. I would like to welcome to the stage Radboud, Baayen.
Yes, hello. I understand that we're already in lunchtime, so I will keep you only for a couple of minutes because my part is doing a teaser for the afternoon meeting tomorrow, just like Kai said, so we're on the same page. Let's see if the presentation comes up because I do need that.
Did you submit it?
I did submit it to John yesterday already.
Then 1 minute.
Yeah, okay. So what I will try to teach you with is a little bit about governance of data. And it's all about quality and trust. What are we looking at? And standards is one part of that, but there's another part, and that's the organization. Oh, it's not on there. Great. So much for communication, I will say. The teaser is even better this way because I don't have pictures. But the thing is about governance of data, there's various ways you can look at that. The most important thing in our view is that we need standards, we need data, we need content, and somehow that content needs to be managed. And we have to be able to trust who's managing the content. So for instance, standards are managed by standardization bodies and working groups. And there is a whole governance structure around it to make sure that there is a systematic review every couple of years so people are paying attention to this. CRB is doing this for our specification system. At Kate Standard, we are doing this for the item classification. So every layer has their own governance structure on there. What we're trying to do with the governance of data domains is what we call it now initiative, is to create a framework on how can we communicate the information about how governance is done so that you as an end user can see through, for instance, the BSDD, how it's done and can assess if you are willing to trust that information for your project. So we're not asking buildingSMART to do governance on data, except the things they are managing themselves, but to make sure that we know how data is governed when it's not coming from buildingSMART itself, but from, let's say, chapter organizations, for instance. So we'll go into that a little deeper with pictures next time at the end of the day tomorrow. And I think in PD2 I have a second chance, so talk to John. Have a good lunch.